Imagine walking into the place you built with your own hands, a beautiful, thriving jewelry store bearing your name, and being treated like a stranger. That's exactly what happened to Meyer Ellis, a black CEO who poured years of hard work, sweat, and passion into creating her luxury brand. Instead of a warm welcome, she was met with cold shoulders and disrespect from the very manager who was supposed to represent her vision. Denied service right in front of stunned customers, Maya faced a humiliating moment that could have broken anyone's spirit. But instead of backing down, she stayed calm and collected, quietly gathering the evidence she needed. What followed in the next 7 minutes would shock everyone in the store and send a powerful message far beyond those walls. This isn't just a story about one woman, it's about courage, justice, and taking control when the world tries to push you down. Meyer Ellis adjusted the sleek black blazer over her shoulders as she stepped through the glass doors of Ellis Elegance, the luxury jewelry store she had spent the last decade building from the ground up. The store sparkled under the soft glow of the chandeliers, every display case meticulously arranged to showcase the finest diamonds, sapphires, and handcrafted gold pieces. It was her pride and joy, a symbol of everything she had worked for, her passion, her resilience, and her unyielding dedication. Today was a special day, the launch of her newest collection, a series of elegant yet bold designs inspired by strength and heritage, was set to make waves in the city. Maya had flown in early from a business trip to Atlanta, just to be there for the opening. She imagined greeting her staff, chatting with loyal customers, and maybe even making a few surprise sales herself. With a soft smile playing on her lips, she walked confidently toward the front counter, ready to immerse herself in the excitement. But something felt off the moment she stepped inside. The usual buzz of warm greetings and enthusiastic chatter was replaced by a strange silence. Maya's heels clicked softly against the polished marble floor as she approached the counter, her eyes scanning the room for familiar faces. A few employees glanced at her and quickly looked away, their expressions unreadable. At the center of the store stood Greg, the store manager. A middle-aged man with graying hair and a tight smile. Greg had been working at Ellis Elegance for several years. Though Maya had hoped to build a team that shared her vision and values, Greg had always seemed distant, sometimes brusque with both staff and customers. She reminded herself to have a talk with him soon, but nothing prepared her for what happened next. Greg's eyes met hers as she approached, but instead of the polite smile or respectful nod Meyer expected, she saw something else: coldness. A dismissive flicker of annoyance crossed his face. Without a word, Greg turned sharply on his heel and walked over to a customer standing nearby, immediately directing his attention to her instead of Maya. Maya froze, a wave of disbelief washing over her. She cleared her throat softly. "Excuse me, Greg," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. But he didn't even look her way. Instead, he began rattling off product details to the customer, as if Maya wasn't even there. Her heart pounded, and for a moment she thought maybe she had misunderstood. Maybe Greg was just busy. But then, a couple of other customers nearby started to glance between Maya and Greg, their faces registering confusion and discomfort. One woman whispered to her companion, "Is that the owner? Why is he ignoring her?" Another man shook his head, clearly surprised. Maya could feel dozens of eyes on her, the room suddenly filled with an awkward, almost tense silence. The very idea that the CEO of this store, her store, was being treated this way was almost unbelievable. Trying to regain control of the situation, Maya took a step forward, her voice calm but firm. "Greg, I'm here to oversee the launch today. I'd like to speak with you." Still, Greg ignored her. He barely glanced her way, and when he did, his eyes were cold, almost defiant. Then, in a move that shocked Meyer even more, he turned back to the customer, continuing the sale as if the woman standing right in front of him was invisible. Maya's fingers tightened around the strap of her handbag. She had faced adversity before, often more difficult than this, but nothing had prepared her for the sting of rejection in her own store. Her mind raced, a mix of anger, confusion, and hurt bubbling beneath her composed exterior. "Greg," she said again, this time louder, more insistent, "I need to talk to you now." A few staff members started whispering to each other, some casting guilty looks in Maya's direction. She noticed a young sales associate standing nervously near the corner, her eyes wide and unsure. Maya realized that this wasn't just a personal slight. It was a message, an act of disrespect that couldn't be ignored. But what was Greg's motive? Was it personal? Did he know who she was? Had something happened behind the scenes? Her curiosity mixed with determination. She would find out. But for now, she forced herself to stay calm. Raising her chin, she stood tall, letting the silence stretch. The customers shifted uncomfortably, the atmosphere thick with tension. After what felt like an eternity, Greg finally glanced up at her. Not with recognition or apology, but with an almost arrogant smirk. "Can I help you with something?" he asked, his tone sharp and dismissive. Maya's eyes narrowed, but she kept her voice steady. "Yes, I'm the CEO of this company, and I expect to be treated with respect." The room seemed to hold its breath. Maya knew that this moment would change everything. How she responded now would set the tone for what came next. Maya's heart pounded so hard, she was sure it echoed through the quiet luxury of the store. She'd faced discrimination before, racial slights, microaggressions, and blatant disrespect, but never like this. Never inside her own store, denied service by someone who worked for her. The sting was sharper, more personal. She swallowed the rush of emotion threatening to burst forth: anger, frustration, disbelief, and reminded herself to stay calm. She took a slow step back from the counter, sliding her fingers along a velvet display case filled with delicate diamond earrings. Her face stayed serene, but her mind raced. This wasn't the time for confrontation, not yet. She needed a plan, and most importantly, she needed proof. Maya reached into her purse and pulled out her phone, slipping it quietly into her hand. Without drawing attention, she tapped the record button. The screen lit up, and she angled the camera subtly toward Greg. The manager was still ignoring her presence, talking to customers as if she were a ghost. Maya's voice barely rose above a whisper as she spoke to herself. "This is going on social media if it doesn't stop." The video captured everything: Greg's cold demeanor, his refusal to acknowledge her, and the moments when she finally gathered courage to confront him. When she asked for help, he answered with a tone dripping in disrespect, as if she were some unruly customer trying to cause trouble. Several customers noticed the odd exchange. Some shot confused glances her way, while others whispered among themselves. A couple of employees exchanged uneasy looks but didn't intervene. Maya felt their silent support, yet also their hesitation. A reminder of how complicated workplace dynamics could be. Time slipped by agonizingly slowly. 7 minutes. 7 minutes. Greg ignored the CEO of Ellis Elegance. Maya glanced around discreetly. She caught sight of a few loyal customers who had come specifically for the new collection, now watching with growing discomfort. The atmosphere had shifted from excitement to something tense and uncertain. Her mind clicked into gear. This wasn't just about her. It was about the integrity of her brand, the respect owed to every person who walked through those doors, and the message sent to her employees and customers alike. Maya's fingers tapped lightly on the phone screen as she continued recording. She played back the silent video in her head: Greg's dismissive answers, his blatant disregard for her authority. This was undeniable proof. Suddenly, a voice in her head reminded her of the power she wielded. She was no longer just the CEO behind closed doors. She was a leader in a moment of truth. What she did next would define not only this day, but the future of Ellis Elegance. Maya smiled quietly to herself. She had a plan. She slipped the phone back into her purse and straightened her posture. Approaching the counter again, this time she spoke louder, her voice calm but commanding. "Greg, this is unacceptable. I'm asking you one last time to assist me properly." Greg looked up, startled for a moment by the firmness in her tone. He hesitated, then shrugged as if the request was beneath him. "I'm busy," he muttered, his eyes flickering with impatience. Maya took a slow breath. This wasn't about patience anymore. It was about control. Without another word, she pulled out her business card and laid it on the counter in front of him. "I'm going to call the district manager now." Greg scoffed but didn't protest. Instead, he turned away to ring up the customer, still refusing to look her in the eye. Maya's heart swelled with a quiet victory. The next steps were in motion. She had the evidence, the witnesses, and the resolve to make things right. Her phone buzzed in her purse, a message from her assistant, confirming that the district manager was already en route, after receiving an earlier heads-up. In that moment, Maya felt a surge of strength. She was no longer powerless. She was about to reclaim her store, her dignity, and send a message loud and clear. Disrespect would not be tolerated. As the minutes ticked by, Maya stood tall, her eyes scanning the store, noticing the small signs of discomfort on Greg's face as word spread that the district manager was coming. Staff shifted nervously. Customers exchanged whispers. Maya's calm, poised exterior masked the whirlwind of emotions inside. Anger was there, yes, but so was hope. A hope that this moment would be a turning point, not just for her, but for the culture she wanted to build at Ellis Elegance. 7 minutes passed, and then 8. The doorbell chimed as the district manager entered the store. Maya straightened her shoulders and prepared herself. The moment of truth had arrived. The tension in the store was thick enough to cut with a knife. Greg's cold refusal to serve Maya hadn't gone unnoticed. Unbeknownst to him, several customers had been watching the unsettling scene unfold, their faces etched with confusion and concern. Whispers floated softly around the display cases, glancing from Greg to Maya, trying to understand why the woman in the elegant black blazer, the CEO herself, was being treated like a stranger. Among the silent witnesses was a woman holding a notepad and a camera tucked discreetly under her arm. She had arrived earlier that morning, sent by a prominent Atlanta lifestyle magazine to cover the launch of Maya's new collection. Rachel Simmons was an experienced journalist with a reputation for digging beneath the surface of stories, seeking truth and justice. Rachel's eyes narrowed as she observed Greg's dismissive behavior. Something about it didn't sit right. She watched Maya's calm determination, the way she tried to maintain composure in a situation that was clearly humiliating her. Rachel decided to approach. "Excuse me," Rachel said softly, stepping toward Maya once Greg's back was turned. "Are you okay?" Maya looked up, surprised but grateful. Her voice was steady but low. "I'm fine, thank you. Just handling some unexpected challenges." Rachel smiled gently. "I saw what happened. It wasn't right. If you want, I can help make sure your story gets out there." Maya hesitated for only a moment before pulling out her phone and opening the video she had recorded. "Watch this." Rachel's eyes widened as she watched the clip, Greg ignoring Maya's polite requests, speaking to her with a tone that bordered on contempt, refusing to acknowledge the woman who owned the store. The footage was clear, undeniable. "This is shocking," Rachel whispered. "I promise, with your permission, I'll publish this. People need to know how you were treated here today. It's more than just a bad customer service story. It's about respect, leadership, and..." Standing up to discrimination, Maya felt a wave of relief mixed with determination. She had captured more than just a moment. She had captured the truth. "Thank you," Maya said quietly. "I want this handled carefully, but it has to be told." Rachel nodded. "Absolutely, this will make waves." At the same time, Maya's phone buzzed in her hand. She excused herself and stepped to the side, pulling the device to her ear. "Hello," the voice of the district manager answered promptly. "Maya here," she said clearly, her tone calm and unwavering. "There's a situation at the flagship store. The manager, Greg, is refusing to serve me." There was a pause. "Refusing to serve you, but you're the CEO." "Exactly, and this is unacceptable. I have video evidence of his behavior and witnesses. I need you to come to the store immediately." "I'm on my way." The district manager replied without hesitation. Hanging up, Maya took a deep breath and walked back toward the main floor. She noticed the subtle changes around her. The employees who had looked uncertain now whispered among themselves, casting occasional glances at Greg. Customers shifted uneasily, some pulling out their phones, possibly recording the scene. Rachel rejoined her and gave her a reassuring smile. "The store's buzzing, and your story is about to get even bigger." Maya nodded. "I'm ready." A few moments later, the district manager arrived. His presence was commanding but professional, a man who clearly took his job seriously. He approached Maya first, offering a firm handshake. "Ms. Ellis," he said, "I heard about the situation. Can you fill me in?" Meyer explained everything calmly, showing him the video on her phone. The district manager's expression darkened as he watched Greg's dismissive actions. "This isn't how we operate," he said firmly. "Thank you for bringing this to my attention." Turning, he walked toward Greg, who was now noticeably more uncomfortable with the growing attention. The district manager cleared his throat loudly. "Greg, we need to talk." Greg looked up, suddenly aware that this was no longer just a private conflict. Several employees and customers were watching the interaction, and the atmosphere was thick with anticipation. Meanwhile, Maya felt a sense of quiet victory. She had stood her ground without losing her composure, and now justice was beginning to unfold before her eyes. The silent witnesses who had seen the disrespect were no longer silent, they were allies in a story that needed to be told. Rachel approached Maya one last time before retreating to prepare her story. "You handled that with incredible grace. This story will inspire a lot of people." Maya smiled softly, a mixture of relief and strength in her eyes. Sometimes you have to let the truth speak for itself. The moment was far from over, but Maya had taken the first, most important step. The district manager arrived briskly, stepping into Ellis' elegance with look of determined authority. His eyes immediately found Maya, who stood calmly near the counter, phone in hand, ready to share the evidence she had gathered. The air in the store was thick with anticipation. Employees and customers alike had sensed that something significant was about to happen. Maya handed him her phone. The district manager swiped through the video with a furrowed brow, watching Greg's dismissive behavior in stunned silence. The manager's lips pressed into a thin line as the disrespectful exchanges unfolded on the small screen. It was undeniable. Greg had openly ignored and talked down to the very woman who owned the business. Turning to Greg, who now stood stiff and pale near the back of the store, the district manager's tone was sharp but professional. "Greg, we need to discuss what happened here today," he said, crossing his arms. Greg's eyes darted nervously between Maya, the district manager, and the gathering crowd of employees and customers. "Look, I was just doing my job," he muttered, trying to sound confident. "The lady came in, started demanding things, and well, I was busy." Maya's gaze hardened, her voice steady and firm. "Greg, I am the CEO of this company. I'm not a demanding customer. I am the owner. You had no right to treat me this way." The district manager nodded slowly. "Greg, we value professionalism and respect here. Your behavior falls far short of those standards. We cannot allow this kind of conduct, especially towards our leadership." Greg swallowed hard, realizing the gravity of the situation. He glanced around the room as whispers rippled through the staff. A few employees exchanged sympathetic looks toward Maya, their eyes silently apologizing for what had happened. The district manager pulled a crisp white envelope from his jacket pocket and held it out toward Greg. "Here is your termination letter. You are fired, effective immediately." Greg's mouth opened as if to protest, but no words came. The weight of the moment crushed any defense he might have had. His shoulders slumped, and he took the envelope with shaking hands. The store fell into a sudden, hushed silence. The tension that had gripped the air moments ago began to lift, replaced by a growing sense of justice and relief. Maya took a slow breath, the tight knot of stress in her chest loosening. She looked out at the employees who had stood silently on the sidelines and now seemed ready to step forward. One by one, several staff members approached her cautiously. "I'm sorry, Ms. Ellis," said a young sales associate, her eyes downcast but sincere. "I didn't know what to say or do, but you didn't deserve that." Another employee nodded. "We respect you a lot, and it was wrong what he did. Thank you for handling it so well." Maya smiled warmly, her voice gentle but resolute. Thank you for your support. This store belongs to all of us, and it's important we treat each other with respect." Across the room, a few customers began to clap softly, their expressions showing admiration for Maya's grace and strength. A man near the display case whispered to his companion, "She handled that perfectly." The district manager cleared his throat and addressed the room. "Effective immediately, I will be overseeing the store until we find a new manager who reflects the values of Ellis Elegance." Maya nodded in agreement. "We're committed to making this a place where everyone feels valued and respected." As Greg gathered his belongings and left the store, heads turned with a mix of curiosity and approval. The mood had shifted from one of discomfort to one of empowerment. Later, as Maya walked through the store, she noticed a newfound energy among her staff. Conversations were more open, smiles genuine. The customers' eyes sparkled with appreciation, not just for the stunning jewelry, but for the way the situation had been handled. Rachel, the journalist, approached Maya with a bright smile. "This story is going to resonate with so many people. Your calm strength and swift action are inspiring." Maya felt a surge of gratitude. "It's about standing up, not just for myself, but for everyone who deserves respect." That day, Ellis Elegance was more than a jewelry store. It was a symbol of dignity, courage, and change. Within hours of Rachel publishing her article and sharing the video, the story of Maya Ellis being denied service in her own jewelry store exploded across social media and local news outlets. The clip of Greg's disrespectful behavior, paired with Maya's composed response and swift action, struck a chord with thousands of people. The hashtag #JusticeForMaya began trending on Twitter, with messages flooding in from all corners of Atlanta and beyond. Support poured in not only from loyal customers, but from strangers who saw Maya as a symbol of strength and resilience. Her story wasn't just about a single incident in a store. It became a beacon for anyone who had ever faced unfair treatment or discrimination. On Instagram, posts of Ellis Elegance jewelry filled feeds, often accompanied by heartfelt captions praising Maya's courage. Sales surged as more people wanted to support a brand that stood for dignity and respect. Maya watched the response with a mix of humility and determination. She knew this moment was bigger than herself. Within days, her team arranged a press conference at the flagship store. The room was packed with journalists, community leaders, customers, and employees, each eager to hear Maya's words. Taking the stage, Maya's presence commanded attention. Her voice was clear and steady as she spoke directly to the crowd and cameras. "Thank you all for being here today," she began. "What happened in this store was unacceptable, not just because of the disrespect I faced, but because it reflects a deeper issue many people experience every day: discrimination, bias, and inequality." She paused, letting her message sink in. "This isn't just my story. It's a story shared by countless individuals who have been made to feel invisible, ignored, or lesser, even in places they should feel safe, like their workplace, their community, or yes, even their own business." Maya looked around the room, making eye contact with as many people as she could. Standing up to discrimination takes courage, but it also takes action. We must hold ourselves and others accountable, and we must do so with grace and resolve. The crowd erupted in applause. She continued, "At Ellis Elegance, we're committed to fostering an environment of respect and equality, not only for our customers but for every member of our team. This experience has strengthened my resolve to lead with integrity and compassion." After the press conference, Maya spent time speaking individually with journalists and community advocates. She emphasized the importance of ongoing education, open conversations about race and respect, and creating workplaces where diversity is celebrated, not tolerated. The media coverage sparked wider discussions across Atlanta. Local schools invited Maya to speak about leadership and resilience. Community organizations reached out, wanting to collaborate on workshops and mentorship programs. Her story inspired more than sympathy, it ignited a call to action. Maya also made sure to recognize the support of her staff and customers. She held team meetings focused on healing and growth, encouraging open dialogue about their experiences and aspirations. Together, they brainstormed ways to make Ellis Elegance not just a place to buy jewelry, but a community hub where every voice mattered. The day-to-day operations of the store blossomed with renewed energy and purpose. New hiring policies were implemented to ensure fairness, and employee training on diversity and inclusion became a cornerstone of the company culture. Maya's bold response to one manager's unacceptable behavior had sparked a movement rooted in respect, justice, and the belief that everyone deserves to be seen and valued. Months later, Maya reflected on how that difficult day had transformed her life and business. What had begun as a painful encounter had become a catalyst for change, not just in her store, but in the hearts and minds of her community. She smiled, knowing that while the road ahead would have challenges, she was no longer walking it alone. Maya Ellis wasn't just the CEO of Ellis Elegance. She was a leader who had turned adversity into strength and had reminded everyone that standing up for what's right could change the world. One moment, one story, and one courageous act at a time. Maya's experience was painful, but it became a powerful reminder that respect and dignity must be upheld everywhere, no matter who you are or what you own. By standing her ground calmly and wisely, Maya showed the world that injustice can be challenged with strength and grace. Her story inspired many to speak up against discrimination and proved that true leadership means fighting for what's right, even when it's uncomfortable. Thank you for watching this incredible story of courage and justice. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring stories just like this. Have you ever faced or witnessed something unfair like Maya did? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing from you. Until next time, stay strong, stay kind, and remember, your voice matters.